Hey guys, my name is Ethan, this is Carberra. Welcome to the series where I teach you how to code in Python. Today, we're talking about string concatenation. This is something you're probably going to be doing quite a lot. So this is rather an important one. Again, we're in Python 3.9.1. You can update if you haven't already, though this will obviously work in 3.9.0 and other versions of Python or whatever. So, there are specifically three main methods of doing it. There are others, but you don't really need to know them. The first of which is by using the plus operator, so doing a string plus a string. As you can see, that returns a combination of the strings. So you can do hello space and then plus world, and it will print hello world. So it will just literally mush the strings together as if you're adding two numbers, really, it's an interesting way of doing it, but it does work. You can also use the plus equals operator. So if you had string equals hello and then space and then s plus equals world. S plus equals world. See, I used my error handling knowledge from last video to work out what was wrong there. And if we print s again, we get hello world, and then we can do the same thing again, and we can just hello world yay. Woo! But yeah, you can use the plus and the plus equals in the same way that you could with numbers. I did briefly mention that in the data types video. No, in the arithmetic operators video. There we go. Haven't totally forgotten. But I did want to properly explain that here in context. The next way of doing it is by using the dot format method. So the reason you would use this one is to avoid really unnecessarily long lines. So you would do, so say if you had something like this. This is extremely cumbersome. Okay, like you don't want to be doing that, especially if you have 10 or 20 strings to append to each other. If you're like constructing a sentence using variables, you don't want to be doing it like this. You want to be using one of the other two methods. I'm going to be talking about the format one here. So you can do s equals and then use these curly brackets or braces if you're American, and you can do dot format, and you can do hello world. Yeah, obviously you can put string variables in here. I'm just using these three words because that's apparently what I've been doing. So you can also do this and this, and if you print s, that's what comes out is. So what is happening is it's taking the hello and putting it where the first set of curly brackets is. It's taking this world and putting it where the second brace is, and it's taking the yay and putting it where the third one is. We can input our own comma and exclamation mark in, and it will simply just replace. It's essentially doing a replace. So this is quite a standard syntax of variable replacement, and it's just replacing the braces with the respective words or the curly brackets or however you want to do. Why is there two words for that? Why is there two words for everything? That just baffles me sometimes. There is some extra cool stuff you can do. So you can do actually, if I just get that line back up, we can do say 0, 1, 1. If we print s now, we have hello world world. Well, what's happened here is that we've specified which one of these we want to get. So we've specified that we want the 0th one, or the first one, because Python is 0 indexed, which is hello. And then we've specified that we want the first one, or the second one, because Python is 0 indexed, twice. So we want the first one here, and we want the first one here, or element 1 there and element 1 there, which is both world. We don't input the yay anywhere, so we get hello world world. You could, of course, have the 2 in there if you want. You can interchange the order as much as you want. And in using this, you can call attributes, but I'm not going to go into that right now because we haven't really covered that sort of stuff yet. But you can say, for example, do this. String object is no attribute lower. Are you entirely sure about that? I can prove that it does. See?
Okay, I'm not sure what. Okay, apparently you can't do that. But you can. If you had an object, you could reference variables here. So if for example, lower was a variable or an attribute in a class, you can call that here and it will put it in. And you could just pass in the actual object here and just have some really dynamic stuff. For whatever reason, that doesn't work. That seems to be a bit of a weird one. I don't quite know what's going on there. But if I make myself some extra space, the third and arguably the best way of doing this is by using f-strings. Now, these were introduced in Python 3.6 and are the fastest string concatenation. That's a difficult word to say. The fastest string concatenation method possible. However, they do have their own limitations. I will be talking about those after I've described how it works. So, I'm actually going to be defining variables for this. So, h is hello, w equals world, and y equals yay. I probably should have done that before. I didn't think I would need to, but obviously times have changed. So instead of doing it like this, where we just pass in the h, the w, and the yay, you can set a string, and you can do this. W and then that. However, this won't work. As you can see, what we need to do is we need to put an F here. And this F stands for format. It's why it's called an F string or a format string. And once you do this, it will do the same thing as format does, or as dot format does. The only difference is it is significantly faster to do so. This is orders of magnitude more efficient than dot format. So while dot format does have its uses over f strings, which I'll talk about in a brief second, you do want to use f strings wherever possible. Of course, the only problem with f strings is trying to do nested pretty much anything. So nested f strings are really awkward. You generally don't want to do them. If you're doing a string.join, then you don't really want to do that in f string, and I'll tell you for why. So if we have this up again, and then actually if I make a quick list first. So L equals 1, 2, 3. Cool. So if we have, actually, because string.join is pernickety, I will do that. So if we bring up our f string here and we just like come to the end, and we try and do a join on this. So the join syntax is this, dot join. And then if I can type, there we go, and then L. So what this will do is it will essentially take every element in L and put a comma between it. That's all it's doing. Now if we try to run that, it says f string expecting the closing brace. Now, this is kind of where errors do fall down sometimes, because that isn't the issue. The issue is that you've used these types of quotes. So you remember what I was saying before with strings about that you need to stay consistent? This is why. Because you end up with string mismatches like this. And I did also mention that you can have single quote strings inside of double quote strings, and etc. So the way you would fix this is to make this a single quote string and do that, and it will work fine. Obviously, this is the result of the join, by the way, if you're a bit confused about what I was doing. But that is one fall down of f strings. With dot format strings, you don't have that same issue, so you can just pass in a double string, and it's not really subject to these same sort of problems. Ultimately, as I say, f strings are a lot better. You can do the maths using time it. F strings are so much faster, even than the plus equals, unless it's two elements. If it's if you're putting two things together, using the plus operator is fastest. Any other scenario, f strings are fastest. So that's something to keep in mind if you want. F strings are typically the standard now. Using a lot of dot formats all over the place will significantly slow your program down. But that is the three basic ways of formatting strings. As I said before, there are others, but I'm not going to go into them because there's no real point, because no one uses them. One last thing I'm going to talk about before we end this is some basic formatting options. So F strings and dot format strings both have this capability. Using the plus operator does not. So you can, for example, have a 1000 separator. So if you had, say, n, or m apparently, equals 175,536, you could do an F string and say m colon and then a comma. As you can see, it does return it as a string, but it returns it with the comma in it. So this colon signifies that you are starting a series of formatting options. This has to be a number for it to work, but it's saying make this number 1000 separated. You can't change the delimiter, and you also can't change it to, I think it's I can't remember if it's the crow and the law or the lock and the craw in Indian numbers. I'm getting confused there, but you can't do stuff like that. It's just 1000 separated, so every 3 digits, starting from the right, it'll place a comma. So you can't do like European standard, for example, which is a little bit annoying. So you can't do like a spacing either without doing a custom thing. But another thing you can do is if I redefine M to be 5678.1234. If you bring up an F, if we do this again, it will, as you can see, 5378. But we can also do .2F, for example, and that will, I can't remember if it rounds it or not. Let me check that for you. It does round it, okay. So this is now saying represent a number using 1000 separators and also round it to 2 significant figures. So we're using a combo now to do more options at once. There are tons of options, like there are literally loads of them. I'm not going to go over them all now, but this is just kind of the basic syntax. Just remember that this colon is here. You can do it in the curly brackets up here in format strings. So if you, but I think you would need to have the number there. So you could do 0 colon comma. You couldn't just have a colon comma in here; it wouldn't work. And it was also type sensitive. So for example, this will only work for numbers. You'll get an error if you try and do it for a string. But yeah, that is basic string concatenation and formatting options and stuff like that. If you have any questions about this, because I know it can be quite complicated to look at first, feel free to leave a comment down below, or you can join the Discord server using the link in the description. While you're down there, I have all my socials, so Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, all that stuff. On the Twitch, I'm currently streaming some image manipulation with Pillow. So that's kind of fun. We're getting people involved, and we're running a new Twitch bot and everything. It's great. So feel free to stop by at any time you like. With that, I'm going to end the video here. If you liked it, say hello down below. If you really liked it, consider subscribing to the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. And if you really, really liked it, consider supporting me on Patreon. Of course, you don't have to, but a really cool thing of you to do. With that in mind, I'd like to thank my awesome patrons for supporting me, and I will see you next time where we talk about if statements. So we're getting into the big boy stuff now. So I'll see you for that.